Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Racing House. My name is Sakki, and today we're joined again by Adam. How are you, Adam?
Good, thank you. Looking forward to Monte Carlo.
Yes, the Monaco Grand Prix. We'll be giving our predictions about that race a little bit later on, but we'll also be talking about a few other topics that have popped up in the past few days. We'll talk about flexi-wings, Red Bull, Mercedes, the battle that's going on there, Lando's new contract, and a few other topics if we've got the time. So, starting with flexi-wings, just give everyone a little bit of background detail. Lewis Hamilton actually piped up after the last race discussing the fact that he could see the Red Bull rear wing moving, I believe, on the straights. And it really caught everyone out by surprise because I don't think anyone else had noticed it. And then it's kind of just erupted into a whole discussion about other teams that have actually got a similar flexible rear wing. And other teams that are working off the same principle. And the FIA actually reacted pretty quickly in terms of giving an update. And it sounds like it's actually illegal. But the controversy comes in the fact that the FIA are going to delay enforcing any new rules that come into place if they do come into place. But they've clarified it and it will come into force on the 15th of June, I believe. Yeah. So next month, there's going to be a bit of time for teams to make their rear wings legal where they aren't legal, but it does throw up a lot of questions about why they're getting given all this time. It's a bit curious. What do you think about it, Adam?
It's interesting, isn't it? How we always it always comes back to Racing Point's brake ducts, doesn't it? But yes. The previous season we have brake ducts which were deemed as legal, but they got fined and docked points. Yeah. Apparently, the Red Bull rear wing isn't legal, but they're going to get an opportunity to change it and there'll be no consequences.
It is so bizarre on so many levels. Thank you, Uzair on F1. Thanks for joining us. Anyone else in the live stream at the moment, leave us your comments and questions. We'll get back to you. Jumping back to the topic of flexi-wings, the reason why I'm so baffled about it is the FIA are very capable of dishing out punishment and deciding when things are right and when things are wrong. And usually they're very strict on it. And they're like, you need to change this, or they'll hand out the penalties. But in this occasion, it's very strange. And I almost like it when they're so firm and clear in terms of you're wrong, we're going to punish you, or we're going to tell you to change it. But it's just like they haven't done it in any way. They've said to the teams, this could be illegal. You might want to change it.
Yeah, so they've not even said they've not even said anything too firm, because they've said they want to introduce tests no earlier than the 15th of June. Wow. So it's not even we're gonna look at these cars no later than the 15th of June, and that's when we're going to find out who's putting in flexi-wings and who isn't. Just to clarify, just in case anyone's wondering, because I know we have people that of varying technical knowledge. Let's say that.
Yeah, I'm at the bottom of that ladder. Technical knowledge down on the ground.
I'm probably lower half, but I understand. I think anyway.
Is that a self-assessment? Yeah. Is that self-assessment? Nice.
So the idea of these flexi-wings is to reduce drag on the straights while maintaining downforce in braking zones and in the corners. So the idea is here that the Red Bull and other teams that may or may not be using flexi-wings, we won't know until the 15th, is that they are able to maintain high speeds on the straights while still maintaining braking force and cornering ability. It's been a common thread through the last few years that Mercedes power unit has been a step above everyone else, and if you can't improve the power unit, you improve the aero. And apparently, there's Red Bull at least has been improving the aero a little bit beyond the lines of the rules. Because I think we all are aware that flexi-wings aren't allowed. There's a very tiny amount of give that is allowed, but there is a video on YouTube where I can't remember who does it now. I feel bad, but it's one of those Reels things, shorts on YouTube, isn't it? Reels is Instagram, 50,000 by the way. And they've got a red line on the wing And then as the Red Bull accelerates, you can see the wing actually going below the red line, so it's flexing. And then they show one with the Mercedes, and it doesn't move, or it moves ever so slightly, but nowhere near as much. So you can actually see it. But it's incredible that Lewis could actually see that while driving at 200 miles an hour behind Max, and could see the wing move.
That's mad.
He's just another level again, isn't he? Just another one of those things. But yeah, I, as far as I'm concerned, it's against the rules, and there should be punishments for it. But that doesn't really go along with what F1's trying to push at the minute, does it? Shall we say?
Yeah. Do you know what? It was quite amazing how Lewis spotted that whilst he's trying to, juggle being a multiple world champion and the brilliance that comes with that. The fact that he spotted that and the balls to bring it up post race in the way that he did. He probably had been told by someone else. I think Christian Horner mentioned that. Toto might have mentioned it to him previously or prior to the race. So it sounds like a bit of brinksmanship, a bit of gamesmanship going on, which we'll go on to discuss in a second. But Uze has raised a very valid point, which I was talking about earlier. And I've actually thought, Mercedes had this DAS system last year, and they were told you need to get rid of it by the following year. It was banned for the following season. And if the FIA had come out and said, you know what, these flexi wings don't look right, you need to get rid of them for next year, I would have been like, okay, that makes sense. It's consistent with previous action from the FIA, where people are breaking the rules effectively. I'm not quite sure the DAS system broke the rules, but people didn't like it. But according to them, it broke the rules. We'll stick with that. But they haven't done that this time on this occasion, and it's just very, very lukewarm. It's like playing that grey area between right and wrong.
Yeah,
and I think they are kind of just not making themselves look any good. And I don't know whether it's because Ferrari also have a flexi wing and there's that influence there, but it is a bit weird because Ferrari, Alfa Romeo have got it, Red Bull, and I'm assuming AlphaTauri are the other team that have got it. But the other team principals are letting it be known that they're not happy with it because it's a weird decision.
Yeah, I think the difference between DAF and these flexi-wings is that, so just to that comment that you displayed now, this isn't a rule change. This is a rule enforcement. And so DAF was one of those, was a solution that wasn't specifically covered in the rules. So the rules had to be changed to close that loophole that Mercedes managed to exploit. Yeah. Whereas as far as what it looks like, anyway, from what it looks like, these wings are illegal. They break the rules. So there's that angle to it. I just think they've broken the rules. Punishment should come. That's my opinion.
Yeah, Uzo raises a good point here. Like it does pass the tests. I think that's what the sentiment was from Red Bull immediately after, in terms of their reaction. But I feel like the FIA know that their tests probably aren't sufficient enough. I feel like the FIA have realised that the test that they have been running isn't fit for purpose. Because if they're making statements and then confirming that things need to change by the 15th, i.e. they're going to start changing the test that they have been doing, that's a massive indication that it's probably the FIA that's just allowed this grey area to be in place, even if there are tests in place. And like, I think Matteo Binotto came out and said that they're going to try different things, probably a more rigid rear wing to see what the effect is on their car, which is a massive indication that, the teams know that they've exploited a bit of a loophole, which is what F1 is all about. So fundamentally, do I agree with all the teams being punished, including Mercedes last year for the DAS system? I'm not quite sure of that. That's potentially why they've been a little bit more hesitant to just slap people on the wrist and cancel them or tell them they can't use them, unless you're Racing Point. There's a little bit of leeway, it seems. I
think as well, because the teams know what tests are used. When you've got people like Adrian Newey, if he knows what the test is, he can pass the test and still achieve what he wants to achieve.
Yeah.
So there's that. The tests need to be directly applicable to what's happening on the circuit instead of what happens in a controlled environment. Because the level of engineering that goes into F1, they can pass a test to a certain type of specification, and then do something slightly different in practice. Because that's F1. Like you say, there's that kind of gamesmanship around the rules and skirting with, is it legal or is it not legal? It's what makes F1 competitive in a lot of ways. So I think there's more of that, isn't there?
Yeah, I think it's a good point that you mentioned there about there's a difference between a stationary test and then a test that happens out on track or watching visual content. It's very much like the VW emissions scandal. Yeah, Dieselgate, where they were testing things when the car wasn't moving, and then out on the road, VW found out a little hack system to work around those kind of tests. So it probably does throw into the question, like who's there saying about whose fault is this? The FIA's tests are probably not up to scratch in that sense, which, that's a whole other issue, which, we'll leave for now. Let's move on to race predictions, break things up a little bit. We've obviously got the Monaco Grand Prix coming up this weekend. We have some pre-practice today, which is quite interesting. Practicing on a Thursday to break up the week. That's always nice. What are your predictions? I'll get the results up for the last race, which was in 2019. So obviously Lewis Hamilton secured pole position and then took first place to Sebastian Vettel and then Valtteri Bottas. The fastest lap was set by Pierre Gasly, which is quite interesting.
I think we'll have a different podium this year.
Okay. So what's your basic bread and butter prediction? And then we'll go for a wild card. Bold prediction.
Basic like stats and probability suggests it's probably Hamver Bot.
Okay.
The well-known Hamver Bot. I think there'll be another battle between Hamilton and Verstappen there. I think we're going to be in for a lot of those, and because Monaco's so tight, and there are factors that can kind of come in out of nowhere. I think those two will be close to inseparable for the weekend. Again, it's always tough to call between them. Although in the early stages, it looks like Lewis has just got that extra little bit of something. I think there's a few more storylines still coming through in terms of, for example, McLaren. So in the midst of Daniel Ricciardo still finding his feet, Lando's been given a new deal. I think that will mean a good race for Lando personally, because I think he feels more at home than ever in that team now. I think no one really seems to know what the deal is, but I'm sure it's a big one, and I would hope it's a long one, because I think he's justified himself. I think last year he started really well. I know, there are rocky moments, but he's very young still. He's really young.
That's true.
And I think in the beginning of this season, he's really shown himself to be a really good young talent. And he's got a really nice mixture of talent and experience. So I think he's going to have a good round. Wild prediction: Mazepin to finish.
You're a funny guy. Nice.
Go on. What's your prediction?
I don't actually think he will finish. I think he'll bin it.
I don't either.
I don't think he'll bin it. I don't think he'll finish. I reckon he'll cause a yellow flag.
I think he'll cause a red flag.
Red flag. Yeah, I can imagine that happening, to be honest. That is quite a bold prediction. Mazepin finishing the race. I like that. So my actual prediction for the race, I'm going to go give my pole position. I think Checo will qualify on pole. I think he'll surprise everyone, because I really do think this track is set up for the Red Bulls. I think they're going to do potentially better on this track. Just talking about their flexi-wing, and then talking about a post that I reposted from an account called Final.lap, where they talked about the wheelbases. Obviously, the Red Bull wheelbase is a lot shorter than the Ferrari and a lot shorter than the Mercedes, which, from what I've been told, using my bottom rung knowledge of F1 and the technicalities, is it makes it better in terms of handling when it comes to corners and those tracks.
Slow corners. Slow corners. So if you imagine what's easy to turn, a Mini or a narrowboat.
The Mini.
I know a narrowboat doesn't have any wheels before anyone gets in the comment section. There's no wheels.
Get in the comment section.
But it's that quicker rotation, really. That's what it comes down to. And also the high rate of the Red Bull, I think, will be beneficial here. The Mercedes is set up for those long floating corners with high speed stability. And the Red Bull's set up for responsiveness and quick change of direction. So I think naturally the setup probably favours Red Bull. I think there's a lot of pressure there, isn't there? On Max.
There is a lot of pressure for Max. I think he's never been on the podium for that. Yeah, he's never been on the podium for Monaco. So I don't think he'll do well in qualifying, or relatively. I think it will be Checo, Ham, Verstappen, and then Bottas. Actually, chuck Bottas out of that mix. Someone else. Charles Leclerc.
Right.
I'll put Charles in there at fourth. But yeah, I think Checo is really going to surprise a lot of people. For the race victory, I'm going to have to give it to Hamilton. No surprise there, because I think he just, even if he doesn't do as well in qualifying, there's something about him this year where he's just hooking everything up. And I don't think the car is as bad as they make out. And this goes into the mind games again. We'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, surprise. I want to see Charles on the podium. I'm just going to keep on saying it until it happens every week.
Speak it into existence.
Speak it into existence. And I think Ricciardo is going to out-qualify and outperform Lando. But we'll go on to discuss that later. If you're watching on playback or you're watching live, give us a question. Let us know what you think the results will be at the Monaco Grand Prix this weekend. Who you think will take pole and the makeup of the podium. But leading on from what I just said about Ricciardo outdoing Lando, he's obviously just signed a new deal, which is amazing. We know that Lando is going to be staying around, given that he's such a young driver. He had a bit of a mixed season last year, but this year he's come out of the gates and really impressed a lot of people. I, for one, underestimated how well he'd perform. I thought Ricciardo would just come out and absolutely just own him, for want of a better word, but he surprised me. He's earned a new contract. I think McLaren has seen a lot in him that has made them want to secure him, given the potential that other bigger teams or big teams could come in. I think you said you were happy to hear it. I, for one, I think the thing that I was going to mention before the live stream, I just don't want him to let up. I don't want him to get complacent, because we see it in so many other drivers or other sports where a driver or a player suddenly just switches up their game and they're amazing. Their form is there. It's like they're fighting for their life. They're fighting to get all the attention and they're being talked about. Rightly so. They're getting the praise. And then you find out that they're in the midst of the contract negotiation and a new deal gets announced as a result. I don't know which one comes first, but I think most of the time it is them in discussions for a new contract. So I do hope that it continues his start to the season, because I know, for one, Lando is one of the drivers that really impresses me off the grid. He's probably one of the most switched on in terms of outside activities and business and what he's got going on. I really do hope he continues with this new attitude, Lando 2.0, let's call it, where he's just absolutely bossing it in terms of his mental approach, like that raw edge that I wanted the younger drivers to bring. He's really brought it in 2021, and I hope that it continues. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, much the same, really. I think he's a really good talent. I think he's kind of been overshadowed lately by George Russell's advancement and being Mr. Saturday and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Lando might actually be on a par or potentially even slightly better
than George.
Yeah, right now. I think when you look at when George drove the Mercedes last year, I think at that point George was probably a little bit ahead. Yeah. But I think right now, when you look at form, I think Lando's just in a really good run of form, and also the contract thing, it helps. But and he's really close to Zach Brown, really close. You can see like if you ever watch McLaren Unboxed, where they do their kind of behind the scenes stuff, you can see that they're really close and there's a genuine relationship there. But also from a more tactical perspective, there are two Mercedes seats that are available next year.
Yeah.
So what better thing to do than to sign up your talent now to a nice, long, chunky deal? Just say, you're staying here. Don't get any ideas. Don't start looking. Don't start just having a little peek in the garage as you walk past. Don't just I would say hello to people in a little nod as you go past. Don't think about any of that. Sign the deal. Because it's security for both parties. And Lando spoke about that to Ted, I think it was, on Sky Sports. Just said, they believe that he can win. He believes that they can win. Together, they believe in each other and they've made good progress. And Lando has been central to that progress. He's been a big part of that push forward from what was essentially, not a very good team not that long ago, to now pushing the envelope and hunting for podiums and being at that kind of that third team sort of that battle and leading that battle, really, I think. Yeah, I just think he's a really good talent. I think this year we had slightly different opinions going into the year. I thought he would have a really good year, and I think he's probably going to start receiving more of the spotlight and getting more of the share of the spotlight, and rightly so. And I hope that he just continues on that trajectory upwards, because I think he's a really, really great talent for F1.
Yep, I echo that. More of the same, Lando, please. I know you're watching. Long may it continue. I take back what I said. All is forgiven, isn't it? Got a comment here from Uzer again. Thank you, everyone watching. Please keep the comments coming in and the questions. We got a prediction. He says Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, Leclerc, Perez. That's about what it's been like, especially that podium all year. So thank you for that one. Next topic. Max having a point to prove. So Lewis Hamilton recently came out and said that Max Verstappen probably has more of a point to prove in terms of making moves and making the moves stick. Because obviously there's been a lot of talk about how quick Max is off the line and how just on it he's been in terms of making a move at whether it's a first corner or just catching the Mercedes cars out by surprise, which is brilliant. We love to see it. But Max has interestingly come back and said he doesn't have anything to prove at all, which it feels like there's a lot of gamesmanship and mind games taking place on the driver level as well as a team principal level. Like, I've never seen Toto come out so much with comments about his main competitor on this level. And I'm kind of used to seeing Lewis do it from time to time. But we all know what he's like. And it really feels like Mercedes have that challenger and they want to be able to take another step in terms of those mind games. I don't know what you think, but it is a really interesting thing to see how Toto and Christian Horner are just going back and forth on all these topics. They're being very outspoken about what their thoughts are and talking about other teams and mentioning other teams, which is quite interesting and unusual. I feel like Mercedes feel the threat from Red Bull.
This is it. I think you used one word there in particular that I think is like spot on, and it's becoming more out there. It's becoming more outspoken, and it's more in the public eye than it has been previously. Because I think Toto and Christian Horner have always been doing this. I don't think they're ever not doing it. But I think it's now more in the public eye. I think it's now more out there. It's more accessible by the media and by other people to comment on. And yeah, it feeds into that narrative, that Mercedes Red Bull narrative. But also, I think there is a genuine rivalry there now, because if you take away Mercedes, Red Bull have been so good for over a decade now. They've been so good for over a decade. And Mercedes are making them, like, this period of Red Bull is probably, aside from obviously Vettel, is the best period of Red Bull racing in F1. But no one will really remember it that well because of Mercedes' dominance.
Yeah.
And that will be something that will go into the future, and the memory of Red Bull in this period will fade gradually, whereas Mercedes will be held up. And you can see how frustrated Christian Horner and Max Verstappen are, because they know that they're right on the edge of what they can accomplish. Even at the stage of going slightly over that and pushing the boundaries on certain things, and Max maybe going over the top on certain moves and being a little bit too eager to get to the punch first. Whereas Mercedes are just very, very comfortable. They're doing as much as they can, but they know what it takes to win. They've been there before. They know they know the process. They know the warning signs, and I think Red Bull are rattled, to be honest.
Yeah, I think they ate it all up. The mind games before season started, the preseason talk about Red Bull, the quickest car. We've got a lot of work to do. Lewis setting a narrative, and I think they literally ate it all up. I think they believed for a second that they were the car to beat, and it could be the case. But if you look at the way Lewis is racing this year, I would say it's different, just purely at the starts. And I think Jenson Button alluded to it, that his driving has probably evolved in the sense that previously he used to be super quick, definitely in qualifying, and then it was his race craft that maybe race management and let him down potentially. But for me, it looks like Lewis is just like, oh, let Max go. Let them go. If someone overtakes him, he's like, cool. Whereas Lewis of old, he would have been back. If that was Lewis from 2016, do you think he wouldn't have covered his right-hand side or left side, or defended, done a defensive
He would have
move?
done everything, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I've not really seen Lewis defend, which is weird. It's like they know their car is better. It's like they know their engine is better. And it goes back
to faith, don't they?
They've got faith.
Have faith in the strategy.
Yeah, they do have faith, and it is a bit of a weird one to see a different approach from Mercedes, and I think they hold the aces in my opinion. I feel like they're allowing themselves to build up some momentum, but hopefully Red Bull can kind of peg them back. We've got some comments here from Danny Jones. He's saying Bottas will get sacked, in my opinion. George will then move in to replace Bottas and become the number 2, which is an interesting point. What do you think about the Bottas rumours? I know that a lot of the media, especially Sky Sports, have come out and said that it is pure rumours, but they're still having a discussion about it, which is perpetuating those rumours. I've seen a few comments where people are like, why are you talking about this? It's the least Mercedes thing to do, to just ditch drivers midway through the season if they'd only do that if the driver was ill or was hurt.
I think in these situations, a team like Mercedes would do their due diligence and just say, well, what would happen if we did? What are the possibilities? How could it go?
Yeah.
I don't think like it's come out since. I don't think they will. I don't think it's realistic. I imagine they probably had a chat about it behind closed doors and just thought, well, what are the options?
Yeah.
And then would have thought it can only there is one way for it to end well and many, many ways for it to end badly. And in true Mercedes style, they know where they are. They play it slightly safe. And just going back to a point that you mentioned earlier about Lewis, I just want to go back to something really quickly about how they're more willing to let Max go and things like that. They're not desperate to be racing constantly. They play their own game. Mercedes have got outstanding strategists, and I think that's one of the major kind of separation things for them.
Yeah.
And the thing is, people say, "Oh yeah, Mercedes have got an excellent strategy." The thing is, what people also forget is, you can be damn sure that Mercedes strategists are also modelling the Red Bull strategies too. They've got a huge amount of intel on what those Red Bull cars do. They know how long they go on certain compounds. They know when they push. They know when they hold. They know what they're like in traffic. They know what they're like in clear air, because all the data's there. All the timing data's there. All the timing data's the same. Yeah. So they know what's likely to happen. So an element of it's not only doing your own race, it's also predicting the other team. And I think that's another thing that Mercedes have an edge on at the minute. And we saw that in the last round, because they sent Lewis out and made him go extremely long. And then when the time was right.
Did you watch that video on F1 TV?
Yeah.
Did you watch the full 11-minute thing? Because just in case anyone who missed it, the F1 Instagram account posted a strategy masterclass where they basically unpacked why Mercedes made the choices they did at the last Grand Prix, where they obviously went for a different pit stop strategy, which nobody really expected. I think Martin Brundle may have called it potentially, but nobody really expected it. So when Lewis took another pit stop, when he was literally on the tail of Max, nobody saw it coming. I certainly didn't see it coming. And they actually explained the process, and they gave us like the radio discussions between all the strategists, engineers, Toto, Lewis. It was possibly the best piece of content I've seen produced by F1. Like,
and that's
what Netflix Drive to Survive should be about, because that is all real. That is all brilliant content where you're seeing the thought process from the strategist. You're seeing a thought process from Lewis. You're seeing a different kind of Lewis as well. People think Lewis is the guy that's just badgering his engineers, being rude, this, that, and the other. You could really see what he's like on a team radio, and you can really see what kind of information they're giving to the driver. And it's a superb piece of content. I really urge anybody who hasn't seen the full 11-minute video, this is not sponsored, by the way, to go and check it out. Subscribe to F1 TV. Yeah, F1 don't want to know about me. But yeah, subscribe to F1 TV, even if it's just for a month, to see that piece of content. I'm sure they'll have other pieces there, but that's probably one of the best snippets and insights that I've ever seen. Like, with easily, like, it was better than the race.
And how galling must that be for Red Bull? Like, watching that, thinking they were playing chess all this time. Yeah, we thought we had a chance at this race, and they were having a chat, thinking, "Can we do it? Yeah." And
the thing is, they would have talked about it. They would have discussed it before the race.
Yeah. It's clear, isn't it? It's clear from the audio that they've talked about it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. It's like a bit of a contingency plan if something goes a bit wrong. Things did go a bit wrong. It's like, well, now's the time to try this then.
Yeah. Honestly, I can't talk highly enough about it more. Just go and check out the full video. It's insane. It literally blew my mind. I don't know whether I'm overreacting here, but I was like, wow.
I agree.
Mercedes they're just different gravy, I believe.
Yeah.
They've just got such faith in their team and their car. And like, for them to replicate what happened in Budapest again, I know factors have to come into play and can't control things like the track condition and the weather. But yeah, that was honestly a brilliant piece of strategy from Mercedes. And like, Red Bull can only do what they can do. But when you've got such an excellent team of strategists and Lewis in that car, Bottas couldn't have done what Lewis did. Because that's what I was thinking when I was watching the highlights of the race. I was like, so if that works for Lewis, why don't they do that? Why don't they replicate it with Bottas? And I was thinking, this is weird. Bottas must be sitting there thinking, I don't have a chance at all. He's probably thinking that already, but it's like,
I think the issue as well is Bottas doesn't have the safe zone to pit because he's not 25 seconds ahead of the nearest car behind him. He doesn't have that gap to start playing with strategy and things like that. So he has to just run a conventional race, because if he didn't, he would then be caught up in traffic. which is
That
another
must
problem.
burn him though, because normally isn't it the second car from the team that gets option on strategy?
Sorry, it's usually the first that gets preference.
Really?
Yeah.
I always thought it was the second. Let us know in the comments section which way around it is. The way that I just thought about it is because obviously the first car ahead should have they've obviously got track position over the second car, and to make up that kind of fall in terms of that track position, give the second car the option in strategy. But who knows?
See,
Maybe that's just in my mind.
I would think you want to protect the leading car. That would be my thinking.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let us know what you think in the comment section down below. Moving on to Red Bull poaching. So obviously Red Bull have taken on the Honda engine projects going forward, and they just can't basically build a factory and expect engines to miraculously show up. They have to have employees that do all the hard work, the grunt work, the labor, and they need the best out there. So I think they approached 100 Mercedes employees about coming over to the Red Bull engine program for the future, especially 2021 after Honda have left. And this probably plays into the gamesmanship and all the chat that's going on, more chat than we've ever had. What do you think about them poaching and the comments that have been made by Toto, basically saying that it's a lottery about them moving?
Yeah, he's saying that they've been throwing out lottery numbers type salaries to these people.
Really?
I think it's one of those things where they want to be competitive, don't they? So you poach from the best.
Yeah.
And it just adds more fuel to the fire, doesn't it? Because those colleagues that do move over to Red Bull, like there's a bit of bad blood there afterwards. And those ones that stay have shown loyalty. I don't know. It's a tough decision, though, isn't it? Because if you were an assistant, whatever, at Mercedes, and you were earning a good salary, and you were doing well, and the team was competitive and successful, and then Red Bull slide in the DMs on LinkedIn or whatever, and say, "We don't need to be an assistant. You can be the one that leads it, and we'll pay you triple the salary." What do you do?
That's it. That's actually so bizarre, because how does that work with the budget cap coming in? How are they able to do that?
Yeah, I think there are certain protections around different things, but also because they won't be paying Honda for the engines, it'll be money that they'll be putting in. They'll be putting into their own operation, won't it? So I think I imagine they'll probably spend more on engines than what they did, but they're filling the staff team out, aren't they?
That's insane. They're going to have to put a lot of money in there to make it work, because like we've said in previous streams, it's one thing taking on Honda engines, F1 department, but actually getting it to work cohesively with your team. I didn't realize they were going to take on so many new employees. I thought they were just going to 2P or transfer the Honda employees over, but that clearly may not be the case.
So the last time we spoke, wasn't it? So I'm sure I read this. That the way that Honda do it is they use the F1 stuff as a placement. So people will be working on the F1 project for 4 or 5 years as a placement to understand particular things that can then be applied to the production vehicles, and they do it on a rotation, because how many people that have spent their entire lives in Japan want to move to England? I'm sure there'll be some. Yeah. But if it's on a medium term placement, and you're going back, you're going back home with the chance of a promotion and that on your CV, it's different. And I think there would have been some of those colleagues that would want to move over permanently and continue to be part of the F1 setup. But if they want a permanent home, they need permanent staff that are going to be there for the long run, and to have that that proper setup as it goes.
It's an investment, isn't it? We've got a comment here from Haven. Where else would they have gotten people from if not other F1 teams, though? Probably more money and also an exciting prospect. So, we do see a lot of movement between F1 teams. Toto often jokes about it. And look at me saying Toto's first name like I know him. Like Toto Wolf. Yeah, he often jokes about it being incestuous which makes sense. You obviously want to stay in F1, limited number of teams. You're unlikely to go from one F1 team to a completely different racing category. It does happen, but the F1 life does seem fairly exciting. So you've got a point there, Haven, about them definitely having to go for people from other teams. And like you said, Adam, they're going to take from the best. Before, it used to be Ferrari. I'm pretty sure Michael Schumacher went into Mercedes and was like, we need the best of the best in that sense. Like, I'm pretty sure I've read that somewhere. He was like, you need to get this person, that person. That was his approach. And Red Bull know this. They know that they need people from the best engine manufacturer in the last decade, which has been Mercedes, without a doubt. So hopefully they're able to pull it off. Otherwise, I worry for Max at Red Bull.
And the thing as well, you look at the options, and Mercedes power almost half the grid. So obviously Mercedes, McLaren, Aston Martin, Williams.
Yeah,
they're probably not going to bring people to England from Italy. And then so the Renault engine setup is mostly France. I know they have Enstone, but I think the power unit is mostly France. So Mercedes is kind of the only option, really.
Yeah.
And unless, like, say, you go for people from, like, for example, Cosworth and organisations like that, perhaps, but they don't necessarily have specific F1 experience.
Yeah, it's a very shallow pool to pick from.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that just about rounds it up. I don't know if you wanted to say anything else, but
I think it's good that there's going to be, I think it's 50% capacity at Monte Carlo this weekend.
Is it?
See.
Oh,
I think so.
That's
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, 40 or 50%, I think. So it'll be good to see some fans in the stands again, and in a bit more, in more numbers. And obviously there'll be the unofficial fans on the yachts, which I'm sure will be busy.
Whenever I think of yachts, I just think of Kimi Raikkonen walking on to his friend's yacht after DNF during a race. Legendary status, that is. Legendary status. And I might need to upload that onto Instagram. Talking of Instagram, we hit 50,000 followers yesterday, I believe, which is a great achievement. Hopefully we'll get the chance to celebrate milestones like this in future. But if you haven't followed our Instagram account, go and follow it. It's Racing House UK, at Racing House UK. Also the same on Twitter. And if you're new to the channel and you like what you have seen, leave a comment down in the comment section, tap the like button, and consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this. But that just about finishes off the video for today. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you're watching back on playback, leave a comment again, like I said before. But that's about it. Yeah, thank you for watching, everyone. Take care.